They left her without ceremony. No shouting, no cruelty by their standards, just efficiency. Among her people, weakness was not punished, it was simply removed, like excess cargo before a long flight. The wounded were liabilities, and liabilities slowed survival. The princess understood this logic perfectly, which was why it stung more than the pain in her side. She lay where they placed her, tail slack, breathing shallow, already categorized as something no longer worth carrying. Royal blood didn't lighten the load. If anything, it made her heavier. She waited for the predators, or the heat, or the toxins in the air to finish the job. Deadly lands were very good at cleaning up mistakes. She told herself she was calm, but calm had a funny way of feeling like fear when you couldn't stand up. Every breath pulled at her injury, every movement reminded her that her legs still worked, but not well enough to matter. Weakness, she had been taught, was a private failure. Dying quietly was the last respectable thing left. That was when the human showed up, grumbling to himself as if the planet had personally offended him. He wasn't armored like a soldier or graceful like a hunter. He moved like someone who'd already injured his back 3 different ways and was about to make it 4. He complained about the gravity, the heat, the smell, and his boots, all in the same breath, like multitasking misery was a skill he mastered. When he saw her, he froze, not in fear, but in the way someone freezes when they realize their day just got heavier. She expected the look. Calculation. Assessment. The silent question of whether she was worth the effort. Instead, he squinted, rubbed his neck, and said, "Well, that's not ideal." She braced for abandonment round 2. Humans were supposed to be practical, she'd heard. Efficient. She had already been deemed excess weight once today. He crouched anyway, close enough that she could smell dust and sweat and something metallic. "You alive?" he asked, as if this were negotiable. "Barely," she replied, pride sharper than pain. "You may leave. It is expected." He laughed, not mockingly, just tired. "Yeah, no. I'm already having a bad day. Stepping over a bleeding fox princess is how you end up having a worse one." Fox princess. The words landed strangely. She was used to titles spoken with reverence or contempt, not casual annoyance. "I am injured," she said. "I will slow you down." He glanced at the horizon, then at her wound. "Buddy, everything slows me down. You're not special." That should have offended her. Somehow it didn't. When he reached for her, she tensed. Among her people, touch without purpose was rare, and this had too much purpose. He lifted her carefully, then immediately regretted it, knees protesting, back making a sound that suggested internal negotiations. "Wow," he muttered. "Royalty is heavier than it looks." "I am not heavy," she snapped. "No, no," he said, adjusting his grip. "You're dignified weight. Important weight. The kind that ruins your spine." Her tail twitched despite herself. "You should put me down." He misunderstood that phrase completely. "I will, eventually. Somewhere that doesn't actively want to kill us." The ground was brutal, the air worse. Every step made his breathing louder, more dramatic, as if suffering deserved an audience. He narrated his pain like it was a public service announcement. "Left knee's filing a complaint. Right shoulder wants a union break. And my back? My back is writing its will." She watched him from the crook of his arms, baffled. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged as much as one could while carrying a wounded alien. "You looked like you needed a lift." "I am no longer useful," she said flatly. "My people abandoned me." "Yeah, humans do that sometimes too," he replied. "But we feel bad about it later, so we try not to make it a habit." Her ears flattened. "Feeling bad does not change outcomes." "True," he said. "But it makes us stubborn." The land tried to prove him wrong. The heat pressed down, the terrain bit at his footing, and more than once he nearly dropped them both. Each time, he swore, adjusted, and kept going. "See?" he said between breaths. "Complaining is just how humans process responsibility." She studied his face. No cruelty. No calculation. Just effort. He was clearly aware of the burden, both literal and otherwise, and still he carried it. Carried her. You are damaging yourself, she said quietly. Yeah, he replied. That's tomorrow's problem. She had been taught that strength meant never needing help. Watching him, she wondered if strength could also mean choosing to help anyway. The idea unsettled her more than the pain. When she shifted slightly, trying to ease her wound, he winced. Careful with the tail. It's very present. It is injured, she said coldly. Right. Just saying. Adds balance challenges. Despite herself, a small sound escaped her, half scoff, half laugh. She stopped it immediately, embarrassed. He noticed anyway. Hey, progress. That's the first sign you're gonna make it. I am still weak, she said. Sure, he answered. So am I. Difference is, I've got experience carrying my mistakes. The deadly land stretched on, uncaring, but something had shifted. She was no longer waiting for the end. She was being carried through it, one complaining step at a time, by a species that treated weakness not as a crime, but as an inconvenience worth enduring. The land did not get kinder just because he kept walking. If anything, it seemed offended by the idea. The ground sloped at cruel angles, loose stones sliding under his boots like the planet itself was trying to trip him. He adjusted his grip again, jaw clenched, breath loud enough to be considered a warning system. I swear, he muttered, this place was designed by someone who hates knees. You may still leave me, the princess said, more out of habit than belief now. Yeah, I heard you the first 12 times, he replied. Still a no. Every step made the truth harder to ignore. Carrying her was work. Not heroic work. Awkward, muscle-burning, spine-questioning work. His arms trembled, his shoulders screamed, and his lower back filed yet another formal complaint. You aliens, he said through gritted teeth. You don't believe in distributing weight evenly, do you? My mass is optimal, she said stiffly. Sure, he said. Optimally ruining my posture. Her tail shifted again, brushing his arm. He hissed. Okay, see, that's just unfair. You can't add extra balance challenges mid-journey. It is not intentional, she snapped. If you drop me. I won't, he interrupted. Relax. Well, as much as someone bleeding internally can relax. She stared at him. You speak as if this is an inconvenience, not a danger. It's both, he said. Humans are great at multitasking anxiety. The predators came first. Shapes moving along the ridges, eyes catching light, bodies low and patient. She stiffened instantly. Put me down, she said urgently. They will target you if you carry prey. He glanced up, then down at her. You calling yourself prey now? Injured equals hunted, she replied. It is logical. So is not announcing yourself as lunch, he said. He shifted her higher, straightened with a groan, and kept walking. Besides, if something's eating today, it's not starting with royalty. That made no sense to her. Predators did not respect status. They respected weakness. Yet the creatures hesitated, confused by a single human shape moving forward instead of fleeing. She realized then that humans were not fast, not elegant, but they were relentless. The predators eventually backed off, choosing easier meals. Her ears flicked back in disbelief. You risked yourself unnecessarily. Welcome to the human brand, he said. Low efficiency, high commitment. As the hours dragged on, the jokes didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. He complained about sweat in places sweat had no business being, about boots that betrayed him emotionally, about how his arms felt like they were slowly being negotiated away by gravity. If I drop you, he said, it's not because I want to. It's because my arms have decided to retire early. You find humor in pain, she observed. Pain finds us, he replied. We just give it a nickname. She tried to understand that. Among her people, pain was private, endured silently so it did not burden others. He made it loud, shared, almost communal. And yet, somehow, that made it lighter. When she shifted again, trying to adjust her injury, he hissed sharply. Careful! That's a sensitive area. You are the one holding me incorrectly. She shot back. Oh? Please enlighten me. I'd love to learn the royal-approved carrying technique that doesn't destroy my spine. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had never been carried like this before. Not by servants, not by guards. Certainly not by someone who complained the entire time. There is no such technique, she admitted. Yeah, he said. Thought so. The terrain worsened. Ruins rose ahead, broken metal and stone half swallowed by the land. Radiation warnings blinked faintly on his wrist device. He sighed. Fantastic. Death architecture. She tensed. This area is lethal. Everything here is lethal, he replied. This just has better branding. Inside the ruins, the air grew close. Tight corridors forced them nearer, her body pressed against his chest, his arms tightening reflexively. He froze for half a second. Okay, he said carefully. We're officially in too close for comfort territory. This is inefficient, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Agreed, he said. But unless you want me to leave you wedged in a hallway, we're committing. Their proximity made her acutely aware of his heartbeat, fast and uneven, of the heat radiating from him. Humans ran warm, apparently, like engines that refused to idle. Your body is under strain, she said quietly. Yeah, he answered. But it's been there before. She studied his face again, lines of exhaustion, eyes alert despite it. You could still save yourself, she said. If you set me down, your chances improve. He laughed softly. Funny thing about humans. Once we pick something up, we're really bad at putting it down. Something twisted in her chest at that, sharper than pain. Among her people, she had been put down the moment she became inconvenient. Here was a species that complained endlessly about carrying weight, and still refused to let go. They made it through the ruins, emerging battered but alive. He staggered, knees nearly buckling, but caught himself with a grunt. See? He said. Still got it. You are deteriorating, she said. Temporarily, he replied. Hopefully. She was silent for a long moment. Then, softly, if you fall, I will not be able to help you. That's fine, he said. You're already doing your part. How? He adjusted his grip one last time, wincing. You're giving me a really good reason to keep moving. For the first time since her people walked away, she believed she might actually survive, not because she was strong, but because someone else was stubborn enough to carry her weakness like it mattered. They stopped because his legs finally made the decision for him. He didn't fall so much as surrender, lowering himself against a slab of broken metal with a noise that sounded like regret. Okay, he said, breath ragged. Tiny pause. Very tiny. Don't get excited. She remained in his arms longer than strictly necessary. Either of them mentioned it. The space was tight, the air stale, and her body heat mixed with his in a way that made concentration difficult. You are shaking, she said. Yeah, he replied. That's just my muscles applauding my life choices. She shifted, trying to ease the pressure on his arms. He hissed. Careful. Sudden movements are how people pull things they can't afford to pull. You complain constantly, she said. Yet you continue. Multitasking, he answered. Humans can suffer and commit at the same time. The shelter was barely large enough for them. Her tail brushed the wall, then his leg. He froze. Okay. That thing has a mind of its own. It is not a thing, she snapped. Didn't say it was, he replied. Just saying it's very involved. She bristled. You are holding me improperly. He raised an eyebrow. Trust me, if there was a proper way to hold a wounded alien princess without long-term consequences, I would have found a tutorial by now. Silence settled, broken only by his breathing. She studied him more closely. Up close, he looked worse, sweat-soaked, jaw tight, eyes alert in a way that suggested he was running on stubbornness alone. "You are afraid," she said. "Of course I am," he replied. "Anyone who says they're not is lying or already dead." "Then why continue?" she pressed. "Fear is meant to stop you." "Fear's a suggestion," he said. "Not a rule." That answer bothered her. Among her people, fear was instruction. Obey it, and survive. Ignore it, and be corrected. Humans treated it like background noise. She shifted again, trying to put space between them. There was none. "This proximity is inefficient." "Tell me about it," he said. "I can feel my pulse arguing with your ribs." Her ears flicked back. "Your heart rate is elevated." "Yeah," he said dryly. "That happens when you're holding someone important and hoping you don't drop them." Important. The word settled uncomfortably. She had not been that in a long time. She closed her eyes briefly, then said, "Among my people, I would already be dead." "Among my people," he replied. "Someone would be making bad jokes while dragging you to safety." She opened one eye. "You find humor appropriate?" "No," he said. "I find it necessary." A low hum built outside, mechanical and wrong. Her body tensed instantly. "Drones," she whispered. "Automated hunters." He cursed under his breath. "Of course. Because why wouldn't there be flying murder machines?" He scanned the space, eyes landing on a pile of scrap and a half-dead power cell. "Okay," he murmured. "This is going to look very stupid." "What are you doing?" she asked. "Problem solving," he replied. "The humankind." He ripped wiring from his wrist device, sparked it against the cell, and jammed it into the scrap. The resulting noise was horrific, screeching, pulsing, utterly wrong. The drones outside veered instantly, drawn toward the sound like offended insects. She stared at him. "That should not have worked." "Yeah," he said. "It rarely does." The danger passed, leaving silence and the echo of her own disbelief. "You improvised," she said. "Yup." "With no certainty." "Also yup." "That is reckless." He smiled tiredly. "Welcome to Earth's strategy." Something shifted in her then, not just relief, but understanding. Humans did not rely on perfection. They relied on momentum. On trying something, anything, rather than accepting the end. "You are flawed," she said. "Painfully," he agreed. "And yet," she continued slowly, "your flaws are effective." He laughed softly. "Don't tell anyone. We have a reputation to maintain." When he stood again, his legs wobbled dangerously. She instinctively pressed closer, arms bracing against him. He stiffened. "Careful. If you start supporting me, this becomes a whole different conversation." "You are unstable," she said. "Temporarily," he replied. "Hopefully." They moved again, slower now. Each step was deliberate. His breathing was louder, but his grip remained firm. "You know," he said, "back home, people complain about carrying emotional baggage." She frowned. "I do not understand." "Lucky you," he said. "Physical baggage at least comes with handles." Her tail flicked, almost amused. "You imply I am baggage." "High-maintenance baggage," he corrected. "The kind you don't want to lose." That warmth returned, unwelcome and confusing. "You insult me strangely," she said. "Affectionately," he replied. She considered that. Among her people, affection was reserved for equals and offspring. Here it was being handed out casually, like water. After a long silence, she said, "If we do not survive, your effort will have been wasted." He shook his head. "Nah. Effort's only wasted if you regret it." "And you do not?" He adjusted his grip, grimacing. "Ask me again when I can't feel my arms." She almost laughed. Almost. The ground ahead sloped downward, lights visible in the distance, signs of civilization, or at least something pretending to be it. Hope, fragile and dangerous, crept in. You could still set me down, she said quietly. Let me rest. He glanced at her, expression firm. Once I pick something up, I finish the job. Something in her chest tightened painfully, and this time it wasn't the wound. She realized then that humans didn't see weakness as something shameful. They saw it as temporary. Something to be carried until it wasn't needed anymore. She stopped arguing after that. She let herself be held, supported, burden and all. And for the first time since she'd been left behind, she didn't feel like dead weight. She felt like someone worth carrying. By the time the lights grew clearer, his complaints had slowed, not because things were easier, but because he was running out of air to waste on them. His steps dragged now, boots scraping instead of lifting. Good news, he panted. If I collapse, it'll be very dramatic. You are nearing physical failure, she said. Yeah, he replied. My body's sending strongly worded messages. The land threw one last insult at them. The ground dipped sharply, forcing him to shift his grip. Pain flared through his back, bright and immediate. He swore, staggered, but did not let go. Okay, he said through clenched teeth. That was rude. She felt the tremor run through him. Put me down, she said softly. Not as an order this time. As an offer. He laughed weakly. You aliens really like that phrase. This time I mean it, she said. You have done enough. More than enough. If you fall here, you may not rise again. True, he admitted. But if I put you down, I'll definitely hate myself. That is an inefficient emotional response, she said. Humans specialize in those. The lights resolved into structures, medical beacons, patrol drones moving with purpose instead of hunger. Safety, or something close enough to pretend. She could feel his relief, sharp and sudden, even as his strength faded. You should abandon me now, she said quietly. You have proven your kind's point. You do not need to carry it further. He stopped walking. For a terrifying second, she thought he'd finally agreed. Instead, he adjusted his grip, tighter than before. See, he said, voice low. This is where humans and your people differ. How? She asked. When we decide something matters, he continued, we don't measure how far is far enough. The patrol spotted them then. Weapons rose. Voices shouted. The human raised one shaking arm. Hey! Over here! Before I drop something extremely important. They rushed forward, stunned. A human, exhausted, half-broken, carrying a Vulpine royal like she was fragile cargo instead of discarded weight. She saw the confusion ripple through them. This was not how rescues were supposed to look. This was not efficient. This was not logical. He finally set her down on a medical platform, collapsing beside her with a groan that sounded like his soul leaving his body. Okay, he said, staring at the sky. Now I'm done. Medics swarmed her. Instruments hovered. Painkillers dulled the fire in her side. She barely noticed. Her eyes stayed on him as he lay there, arms spread, chest heaving. You are injured, she said. Occupational hazard, he replied. Royal transport. You risked your life. She pressed. Yeah, he said. Bad habit. Her people arrived moments later, their expressions carefully neutral. They took in the scene quickly, the human on the ground, the princess alive, the undeniable evidence of how she'd survived. Calculations flickered behind their eyes. Weakness had been carried through deadly lands by sheer refusal to let go. This human acted irrationally, one of them said. Correct, the human replied without looking up. You're welcome. They turned to her. You were deemed a liability. She met their gaze steadily. And yet I stand. Silence followed. Not approval. Not apology. Something more uncomfortable. She looked back at the human. You should not have done this, she said. He winced as he sat up. Yeah, that's what everyone keeps telling us. You will suffer consequences, she continued. Also familiar. Her tail flicked slowly. And yet, if given the choice again? He didn't hesitate. I'd complained sooner. Something inside her loosened then, a knot she hadn't known she was carrying. Among her people, strength was never questioned. Among humans, it was constantly argued with, joked about, pushed until it broke and then taped back together. You carried me, she said. Though I was weak. He shrugged, grimacing as pain caught up with him. You weren't weak. You were injured. Big difference. Her people did not respond. They could not. The logic did not fit. As she was taken away for treatment, she looked back one last time. The human was already arguing with a medic about standing up too soon. Complaining, always complaining. She understood then. Humans did not deny the weight. They acknowledged it loudly, repeatedly, and carried it anyway. Weakness was not a reason to abandon someone. It was a reason to keep going. The galaxy would not remember his name. It would remember the pattern. Humans crossed deadly lands grumbling, injured, inefficient, and unstoppable. And if you were weak, if you were wounded, they would pick you up, curse the burden, and carry you until you no longer had to be carried at all.